I'm Leathur Rokk. Welcome to my channel. And if you're looking to plan to pack for a trip that combines business and pleasure, especially one that does not involve airplane travel, this is your video. Imagine that you have an opportunity to get away for a couple of weeks. And there's things you need to do, and you need to be prepared for that, but you don't want it to break your neck. There are some observations that I have since I'm in the planning for a trip that I am going to need to take. Now, assuming that you're not flying, because that's not my experience here, it's good to pick a container shape or a rough capacity, even though what you're working with in the beginning stages might not be what you ultimately use, because maybe you haven't found the ideal luggage yet, which for me, by the way, would be a steel frame backpack. So I've been putting some things in this, and then I realized, because one of the things I think is important to do when you're packing is to pack for eventualities. So these are some dresses, because you always need club dresses. But I digress. So I'm thinking about planning for a trip that has to be at least 2 weeks, but let's make it 3. And I'm thinking because the nature of this trip involves you absolutely need a clothes change for every day, because you have to assume that you are going to be filmed, and you have to assume that you're going to be seen by people, and especially if this is a place where you're going to be seen by people who know you and who don't see you all the time. It's really important to actually bring more as opposed to less. In this case, many of you minimalists would disagree with this, but bear with me. There's things, I think it's good to decide what your color palette's going to be and have as many things go with other things as possible, especially if you have a predicament where you're going to be bringing some multicolored accessories, such as this handbag I'm about to show you. Now, you see how tricky it could get if you get a piece like this where, okay, I could wear what I'm wearing with this, but if I wear, say, my red, white, and blue stuff, this wouldn't go because it has greens and has purples and pinks and all that stuff. So in my case, I know I want to definitely have purple, so anything purple, fuchsia spectrum I am good with. So many colors go well in that range, but you can never go bad with having some basic black accessories. And by basic black, I don't mean the clothes themselves are black basic. I mean they are black. Preferably a black that can be worn with all the other blacks that you're bringing with you, so that they look like they go together. And in my case, I definitely want to have some club wear. They have a lot of gothic and industrial clubs where I am headed to. So that is important. And now a lot of people talk about these packing cubes. They have packing cubes and they have compression bags. Bags are better than cubes because the cubes you're restricted to a square shape, and that is not as flexible if you don't have luggage that is specifically very, very, very angular. But the problem I have found with the packing cubes, or with the compression cubes, is, say you have stuff but you are not waiting to unpack it until you check into a hotel. What if you need to be able to dig through and get things at random and you don't know what category you're going to need? If that's the case, it seems to me that if, say, you do compression so that things don't take up as much space in your bags, once you start rooting through things, unless you have an easy way to do the compression on that so that it can fit again, and who knows how sanitary you're going to be able to keep your hands when you're doing this. That keeping your clothes that are clean and are packed sanitary is a real issue. You also have to think about security and how, on one hand, it makes sense to Ziploc bag things as much as possible, which I have done when I have used socks to cushion my electric guitar when I brought it back from LA in a gig bag one time. And the thing is that on one hand, putting things in plastic bags is really good because it keeps things clean. If, say, somebody unzips things and your stuff falls on the ground, don't you want to have it clean so you don't have to worry about doing more unnecessary laundry? Especially if you're a laundry washer by hand like yours truly, man, the last thing you want to do is have to do more laundry. And yet, a lot of security seem to feel more comfortable when they do searches. Like when you go across country with Greyhound, you're probably almost guaranteed to have at least one very, I don't want to say intimate search because that implies the body cavity stuff, which I don't believe they would ever do. But they still have you, if you're wearing baggy clothing, they have you lift up to show your stomach or pull your shirt tight so that to prove that you're not concealing any weapons or anything. They may have you walk over a magnetometer. They may bring the drug dogs on. They may, certainly you got to assume that any of your luggage that's underneath the bus is subject to searching. Plus, I've seen them wand luggage racks with metal detectors and stuff. So if you're a musician, keep your mini amps, your electric guitars, keep all that together. Keep your, if you have spiked and studded stuff, keep all that stuff together. And I'm talking through my Greyhound family. If you're thumbing it or you're getting ride shares or you're otherwise using alternative means to go across the country, which, hey, with this economy and with the price of gas, with the price of all these public conveyances, that is something a lot of people are doing. People I know are hitchhiking. I know you're going to say that's dangerous, but that is definitely a way. People are hopping freight trains. There's lots of ways that people are getting places. And I don't even know how I'm going to get where I need to go, but I'm still thinking about the kind of categories I need. Okay, say I am going to, for the sense of argument, say I'm going to be a place for 3 weeks. You could take a piece of paper and you could put a line for 3 weeks, okay? And then you can make a note of travel clothes, and you can make a note of specific occasions and the most likely day of week they would be, and put a notation on one of those lines, as long as it's not the first line or the last line. And this is just kind of like a placeholder, so you could think of, for this assumed occasion, I would want whatever type of wardrobe that would be appropriate for it. So since you know that, when you're packing, when you're choosing the kind of clothes that you want to bring with you, you will keep that in mind. Like say because I'm a club kid and I love to go to circuit parties and so many clubs, if it's got a dance floor and it's got music that I like, I'm there. And if they have some fun dress codes, that can be fun as long as I find it palatable. White parties are a lot of fun. And in the white parties where you get the paint shot on you, they're big fun. So if you can bring a white outfit that's dressy enough for a white party where you don't get painted on it, and then bring something that you don't mind if you get it all colored up, bring them with you. And don't forget the underwear that goes with that. And especially if you're going to be using compression envelopes or sleeves or whatever you call them to pack, it would probably be a good idea to keep your underwear separate, or always keep some things that you can have easy access to, and maybe keep the bulk of your stuff undisturbed. But this can be tricky if you're going to a primarily warm climate, but you still want something warm to throw over you, because you don't know if you may end up, for all you know, need a bunch of layers. Say you're going to be outside and you were planning on being in, but you have to spend a night outside someplace. And say you didn't bring any heavy outerwear, so you have to wear a bunch of things just to keep warm. Be aware of the possibility of that when you're doing your packing, so that you have some items that do not need to be in the compression sleeves, so that you can still have the benefits of the compression sleeves and still be able to access your things. See, that's pretty key there. That's really a good idea. Now, I think of, also when you're packing, think of if you have, because of some aspect of your life, some specific uh, instances that will impact the things you bring. In my case, I'm thinking that I'm going to be doing some chores, and for that, I don't need to maybe have a whole lot of clothing changes, just the clothing change for the day. Um, and then maybe a sweater or something over my shoulders in case I get chilly, because it's going to be in concrete. enclosed area that tends to be a little chilly, from what I remember. But then I'm going to think about all the times, instances that I'll have to create content for my videos. And for that reason, since I like to change clothes for everything that I shoot, if at all possible, I want to allow for easy clothing changes for that, especially lightweight tops that are easy to slip on and off. In case I had to find an old phone booth, which of course almost never exists anymore, and do a quick change or something, or duck between bushes in the woods someplace, do quick changes. That's why a big scarf or something is good to have to tie over your shoulders so that you can do quick changes like that when you're in public if you absolutely had to. Then you have to decide: are you going to bring things with the assumption that you're going to be staying in bed and breakfast, hotels, or otherwise civilized accommodations? Or are you sure that you're going to be staying with friends? Or are you packing with the possibility that you might be full out homeless? Think about what you think your situation is going to be and then pack accordingly. It's probably not a bad idea to bring a sleeping bag with you if you think there's even the most remote chance you might be on the streets. One thing that it would be your advantage in the year 2024, if your destination is in any of the big blue state cities, they have so many tent cities and things so that you could probably bring some basic discreet survival gear and a sleeping bag. And even if you don't have a tent, you might be able to blend in with the tent city people and take care of your business at a deep discount. I'm not recommending you do this, but if you really need to pinch pennies, consider this. Another thing that I know pertains to Washington, D.C., and this is one place that I could recommend this personally. Say you arrive in Washington, D.C., and you've got your luggage and stuff, and it's in the wee hours of the night because, say, you get in by Greyhound and they drop you off there at 3 in the morning, and you don't want to inconvenience your friends by coming to get you, and it's in the middle of the night. What do? And you sure don't want to spring on it for a hotel room. Here's what you can do if you dare. Find you that park that's closest park to the White House. It's called Lafayette Park. It's patrolled by the Secret Service. It's patrolled by park police. You got Metropolitan City Police of Washington, D.C. It's one of the safest places on planet Earth. Now, what you do is find yourself a bench. Now, I'm going to assume that you have some kind of soft backpack that you can maybe keep on your back, or you can strap it reverse so you're hugging it. Now, first take some newspaper and cover your bench with the newspaper. If you have some antibacterial wipes, you might want to wipe it down first if you really worry about that. I hope you have an umbrella with you. Open up the umbrella so you can actually have it over your face so that when the sun comes up, you don't get yourself a nasty sunburn. Did you know that, and if you're a lady and you happen to be wearing a getup like what I'm wearing, and you obviously want to be safe from any pervs or whatever, or say, even I'm not saying getup meaning wearing a tutu. If you're wearing a skirt and stockings or whatever, and you obviously don't want anybody to molest you, get yourself an oversized t-shirt. Put that on, stick your leg through the armhole, put this up. And that will be an additional big layer that will help to make you molest-proof, and it certainly will wake you up if anybody's fumbling with your clothes. But I highly doubt that you would be in that kind of danger in Lafayette Park, especially if you're as close to the street bordering where you could see the White House, because, like I said, nobody is going to mess with you or hurt you when you've got Secret Service right there. And you just saved yourself the cost of a hotel room. And you got the hippies in a tent over here that they certainly won't let anything happen to you. And I just saved you some money if you're headed to Washington, D.C. You're welcome. But now, if you're headed to places that have these big tent cities, be prepared with certain things. And if you have a sleeping bag, don't make the mistake that I made of using anything of yours as a pillow, because invariably you can curl up and your stuff will be exposed and somebody will steal it. Happened to me in San Francisco. If you have some valuables, put them inside your sleeping bag at the foot of it where your feet are. Now you may or may not want to keep your shoes on. I had reports of people getting their stuff taken, but I know how it is to be wearing socks for days at a time. Can you imagine wearing shoes for days at a time? Oh, we had some punk rock roommates that they made him put his boots outside because they stunk up so bad. And you got to think about things like athlete's foot and stuff when you're on the street. But getting back to planning for your packing thing, if you're a content creator and you want clothing changes, pack them also, and don't forget your underwear, plus 2 extra pairs per week. Now, I'm assuming that you're going to be willing to do some hand laundry. So if you're a guitar player and you're bringing guitar, when you break strings, don't throw them out. Did you know that you can use a guitar string, clean it first, and you can wrap it between 2 pieces of furniture? Say you're staying at a friend's house that's letting you stay in for a day. You can actually let your clothes that you hand wash drip dry using that. It saves you from the extra weight and the suspicion of carrying some rope. And if you do carry rope, make sure it's a pretty color so you don't look like you're a menace to society. Okay, but the idea being you want to be as self-sufficient as possible. You want to be able to not spend money as much as possible because you're doing things out of a need to save money and out of a need to survive. But in my case, being a female, I'm always thinking about my safety and stuff. But when you're economizing, you have to think about these things. Now, so I am going to, one of the things I did when I started putting things in there, usually I write things all down first before I even start putting things in. But in this case, I started putting things in, and I said, you know what, I'm going to have to take things out and put things in again. But I'm not going to dare do that anywhere near here because if anything falls down on this filthy floor, I'm going to be really pissed off because it feels like I'm doing laundry all the time. So that's the one thing that I don't look forward to about this process, because invariably when I finally come back from wherever I've gone, there are some things that I have not worn, but they tend to be on some of the smaller trips, like when I go to Washington, D.C. And now I don't know what the environment's like in Washington. I'm concerned about the crime and stuff. The crime seems to be bad in a lot of these places, so you have to think about this. And now, if you don't know what state you're going through, that's going to make your packing tricky because certain things you might be able to bring for self-defense in some states you can't have in others. Even something like the length of an innocent little knife that you would use as a tool. Like there's some places where you couldn't even have a Leatherman toolkit, and I would think something like that is really innocuous. But there are things that I got when I was an Avon representative. They had different kinds. I had a compass and a little miniature knife and a kind of a screwdriver that fit all different sizes and all these different things. But because it had one kind of blade, it was technically, I guess, a letter opener. It was a sort of thing that you couldn't either fly with or technically even take on Greyhound. Because the last time I went on Greyhound, they got really strict with the things that you can have even in your luggage because they want to protect their drivers, and I certainly understand that. They have every right to make sure that the people that have taken the job to drive for the company are safe. I certainly have no problem with that. But anyway, just some basic things to think about when you're first packing. There's going to be a lot more in this series of things to think about when you're getting ready to pack for a trip, especially if it's a multi-use trip. Okay, I will see you tomorrow. Bye.